The invitation arrived on expensive cardstock, embossed with gold lettering that practically screamed respectability. The Morrison Foundation for Underprivileged Children cordially invites you to our annual gala, it read. My son Daniel had brought it to me personally, his face glowing with pride. Mum, this is it, he said, bouncing on his feet like he was 12 instead of 35. Caroline's foundation is finally getting the recognition it deserves. The mayor's coming. Channel 7 is covering it. She's raised almost $3 million this year alone. I smiled and nodded, playing the proud mother-in-law while my stomach churned. Caroline's foundation. The charity my daughter-in-law had started 5 years ago, right after marrying Daniel. The same charity that had never actually helped a single underprivileged child, though nobody knew that yet except me and the IRS Criminal Investigation Unit I'd been secretly working with for the past 18 months. My name is Helen Walker, and at 73, I've learned that the most dangerous criminals often come wrapped in designer dresses and pearls, carrying business cards that say philanthropist. Caroline Morrison Walker was everything a mother could want for her son on paper. Beautiful, educated, from a good family, and apparently dedicated to helping others. She ran charity events that were the talk of Boston society. Her Instagram showed her reading to children in hospitals, serving meals at shelters, and cutting ribbons at new playground openings. She had 40,000 followers who called her an angel on earth. What those followers didn't know was that the hospitals had no record of her visits. The shelters had never seen her. And those playgrounds? They existed only in photoshopped images created by a graphic designer in Thailand who Caroline paid $50 per image. I discovered the truth by accident 16 months ago. I'd wanted to surprise Caroline by visiting one of her playgrounds to take photos for the foundation's anniversary. The address led to an empty lot full of broken glass and used needles. When I checked the other locations, I found a condemned building, a parking garage, and a strip club. That's when I started digging. Mum, you're coming to the gala, right? Daniel asked, pulling me back to the present. Caroline specifically wants you at the main table. Of course she did. I was her biggest individual donor, having contributed $500,000 over the past 3 years. Money I could track through a labyrinth of shell companies to Caroline's personal shopping sprees, her BMW lease, and a beach house in Martha's Vineyard that was supposedly a retreat center for underprivileged youth, but had hosted exactly 0 children and dozens of Caroline's friends for weekend parties. I wouldn't miss it for the world, I assured Daniel. What I didn't tell him was that I'd be attending with federal agent Patricia Santos, who'd be posing as my +1, and that we'd be wearing wires. The gala was going to be Caroline's last performance, and we intended to make it memorable. After Daniel left, I called Patricia on the encrypted phone she'd given me. The gala's next Saturday, I informed her. She's expecting to raise another $2 million that night. Perfect. We'll have arrest teams standing by. The forensic accountants finished their analysis yesterday. She's stolen approximately $12 million over 5 years. That's major federal fraud. What about the other board members? We're still investigating whether they're complicit or just negligent. Your recordings suggest most are just idiots who never asked questions. Those recordings? I'd spent the past year and a half pretending to become more involved in the foundation, attending board meetings where I played the dotty old woman who didn't quite understand finances. Caroline loved having me there, assuming I was too old and stupid to notice that the budget numbers never added up, that the recipient organizations didn't exist, or that the administrative costs consumed 94% of all donations. Helen, you're so sweet to care, Caroline had said at the last meeting, patting my hand condescendingly when I'd asked about visiting some of the children we'd helped. But these poor kids value their privacy. We shouldn't treat them like zoo animals, should we? I'd nodded and smiled, while recording her explaining to another board member later that the children were fictional constructs necessary for emotional engagement with donors. The week before the gala, Caroline was in full planning mode. She dragged me to 3 different venues to approve decorations, each more elaborate than the last. "We need to show success," she explained, holding up gold-plated centerpieces. "Donors give to winners, not strugglers." "These must be expensive," I commented, knowing they cost $500 each. "Oh, they're donated," Caroline lied smoothly. I'd seen the invoice on her desk. $25,000 for 50 centerpieces, paid from the foundation account. How wonderful! And the children will benefit so much from tonight's proceeds. Absolutely. We're planning to build 3 new community centers this year. 3 more fictional buildings to add to her portfolio of lies. I wondered if she even kept track anymore, or if the fiction had become her reality. That evening, I met with Patricia and the lead prosecutor, James Chen, in a secure location. They showed me the full scope of what they'd uncovered, and even I was shocked. "She's not just stealing from your foundation," James explained. "She's running 6 other fake charities under different names. Animal rescue, veteran support, cancer research, disaster relief, elderly care, and environmental protection. Total theft across all 7 organizations is close to $30 million. $30 million? I couldn't hide my shock. She's been doing this since college. We found 2 defunct charities from her time at Yale. She's a professional con artist who specialized in charitable fraud." "And Daniel has no idea?" Patricia shook her head. "Your son appears to be completely innocent. Caroline keeps him away from the financial side, always claiming she doesn't want to burden him with paperwork when he's saving lives at the hospital. Daniel was a pediatric heart surgeon, brilliant and dedicated. He worked 80-hour weeks and trusted his wife completely. When he'd introduced Caroline 5 years ago, she'd seemed perfect, caring, passionate about helping others, and utterly devoted to him. The proposal had come fast, within 6 months, and I'd thought it was romantic. Now I realized she'd been rushing to lock down her mark before anyone could investigate her properly." "How did she pass the background checks?" I asked. "She's good at creating false identities and references. Every reference you called was actually her using different phones and voices. She's been preparing for this her whole adult life." The night of the gala, I stood in front of my mirror adjusting the wire Patricia had hidden in my vintage Chanel brooch. The tech team assured me it was undetectable, but I still felt like I had a neon sign saying FBI informant floating above my head. "Remember," Patricia's voice crackled through my earpiece, "we need her to explicitly discuss the fraud. Get her talking about where the money really goes." "Understood," I murmured, applying lipstick. Daniel picked me up in his Tesla, practically vibrating with excitement. "Caroline's been up since 4 a.m. preparing. She says tonight could raise enough to fund operations for 2 years. Operations. If only he knew the only operations being funded were Caroline's shopping sprees and yacht rentals. The gala was held at the Fairmont Hotel's Grand Ballroom, transformed into what Caroline called an enchanted garden for hope. Thousands of dollars in flowers, lighting, and decorations, all paid for with donated funds meant for hungry children. Caroline greeted us at the entrance, resplendent in a $15,000 Oscar de la Renta gown. I knew she'd bought with foundation money because I'd seen the credit card statement. "Mother Walker." She air-kissed me, her practiced smile camera-ready. "You look absolutely divine, and thank you again for your generous donation this year." "Anything for the children," I replied, letting her guide me inside where Boston's elite were already mingling, checkbooks at the ready. The mayor was there, along with 3 senators, dozens of CEOs, and enough old money to fund an actual children's charity for decades. They all believed in Caroline's illusion because she was so good at selling it. Ladies and gentlemen, Caroline took the stage, her voice perfectly modulated to convey caring and competence. Tonight, we celebrate 5 years of changing lives. The screens around the room lit up with images of smiling children, all stock photos purchased from Getty Images, though the audience didn't know that. Statistics scrolled past, showing how many meals had been provided, 0. How many schools had been built, none. How many lives had been saved, a complete fiction. This year alone, Caroline continued, we've helped over 10,000 children in need. The audience applauded. Daniel beamed with pride. I wanted to vomit. During the cocktail hour, I cornered Caroline near the silent auction table, making sure my wire would catch our conversation clearly. Caroline, dear, I've been thinking about increasing my donation, I said loudly enough for nearby guests to hear. Her eyes lit up with greed. Mother Walker, that's incredibly generous. I just want to make sure the money goes directly to the children. You know how some charities have such high overhead. Oh, absolutely. We keep our administrative costs minimal. Almost 90% goes directly to programs. And these programs, where exactly are they located? I'd love to visit. Caroline's smile tightened almost imperceptibly. Well, we work through partner organizations for security reasons. These children are often in dangerous situations. Of course. And these partner organizations, they're all properly vetted. Thoroughly. We have a rigorous screening process. I pulled out my phone, pretending to struggle with it. My accountant sent me some questions. He's so paranoid about fraud these days. Something about needing to see actual receipts and site visits. Your accountant sounds very thorough, Caroline said, her voice cooling. But I assure you, everything is completely legitimate. We file all the proper forms with the IRS. Oh, I'm sure. It's just that he found some discrepancies. Something about the Riverside Community Center not existing. Caroline went pale under her foundation. There must be some confusion. Riverside is absolutely real. Then you won't mind if he visits next week? Of course not, though we'll need to arrange it properly. Security protocols. Security protocols for a community center? She was saved by the dinner announcement, but I saw her frantically texting someone as we walked to our tables. Within minutes, I heard through my earpiece that she was calling someone named Mike. We have a problem, she hissed into her phone, not knowing I could hear every word through the FBI's surveillance. The old bat is asking questions. Real questions. No, I can't just cut her off. She's our biggest donor. Yes, start moving everything offshore tonight. During dinner, I was seated between Daniel and Judge Morrison, one of Boston's most respected legal figures, who also happened to be wearing a wire. The judge had been horrified when the FBI approached him with evidence that his donations had been stolen, and he'd eagerly agreed to help. Mrs. Walker, he said loudly, I've been reviewing foundation operations for my annual giving. Could you explain the discrepancy between reported distributions and actual bank transfers? Caroline, sitting across from us, nearly choked on her wine. Judge Morrison, I'm not sure what you mean. Well, according to public filings, you distributed $8 million last year. But bank records show only $2 million leaving foundation accounts. Where did the other $6 million go? There must be different fiscal years. Caroline stammered. Fiscal years don't explain money vanishing, my dear, the judge pressed. The other guests at our table were listening intently now. Senator Hayes leaned forward. Caroline, surely you have receipts for all distributions. Of course. Everything is documented. Excellent, I chimed in. Then you won't mind if we review them? Tonight. After all, we're all major donors here. We have a right to see where our money goes. Caroline stood abruptly. I need to check on the auction. She fled, but not fast enough. Patricia's voice came through my earpiece. She's heading for her office. Team 3, intercept. I excused myself to use the restroom and instead followed Caroline, finding her in the hotel's business center frantically trying to delete files from her laptop. Problem, dear? I asked from the doorway. She spun around, mascara running from tears of panic. You did this! You suspicious old bitch. You couldn't just write checks like everyone else. No, I couldn't. Not when those checks were buying you diamonds instead of feeding children. You have no proof. Actually, I have 18 months of proof. Every email, every fake invoice, every photoshopped image. I even have recordings of you laughing about how stupid your donors are. Her face transformed from panic to rage. You recorded me? You've been spying on me? I've been investigating you. There's a difference. Spying implies secrecy. I've been quite open about my interest in the Foundation's operations. You just thought I was too old and stupid to understand what I was seeing. Daniel will never believe you. He loves me. Daniel will believe the FBI when they show him the evidence. All $30 million worth of evidence. 30 million? Her voice cracked. How did you… Your other 6 foundations? Yes, I know about all of them. The animal rescue that's never saved a single pet. The veteran support that's never helped a single soldier. The cancer research that's never funded a single study. You've been very busy, Caroline. She lunged at me. Whether to attack or just to get past me, I'll never know. Because that's when the FBI agents appeared. Caroline Morrison Walker, you're under arrest for wire fraud, tax evasion, money laundering, and operating a fraudulent charity. As they read her rights, she screamed, "This is entrapment!" She set me up. No, Agent Patricia Santos said, stepping into view. She exposed you. There's a difference. The ballroom erupted in chaos as word spread that Caroline had been arrested. 300 of Boston's most influential people watched as she was led out in handcuffs, her designer gown trailing behind her like a deflated dream. But the worst part was watching Daniel's face as he processed what was happening. Mum. He found me in the crowd, his surgeon's hands, so steady in the operating room, shaking violently. What's going on? Why are they arresting Caroline? Daniel, sweetheart, we need to talk somewhere private. Agent Patricia Santos led us to a conference room the FBI had commandeered. James Chen, the prosecutor, was already there with boxes of evidence. Daniel collapsed into a chair, looking between us with growing horror. Your wife has been running fraudulent charities for over a decade, Patricia explained gently. Your mother discovered this 18 months ago and has been helping us build a case. That's impossible. I've seen the children she's helped. I've been to the events. I pulled out a folder of photographs. These are the real locations of Caroline's community centers. Empty lots, condemned buildings, a parking garage. The children in her photos are stock images. The testimonials are written by freelancers she hired online. Daniel stared at the evidence, his world crumbling. But she cries when she talks about the kids. She works so hard on the foundation. She works hard on maintaining the illusion, James Chen said. In 5 years, the Morrison Foundation hasn't helped a single real child. Every dollar donated went to fund your wife's lifestyle. Our lifestyle. Daniel corrected numbly. I benefited too. The house, the cars, the vacations. Oh God, it was all stolen money. You didn't know, I assured him. Caroline kept you completely in the dark. How could I not know? I'm not stupid. You're trusting. And you were busy saving actual children while she was pretending to. She counted on your schedule and your faith in her to keep you from looking too closely. Patricia pulled up financial records on her laptop. She was clever about it. Small purchases mixed with large ones, everything labeled as foundation expenses. Team-building retreats that were really couples' vacations. A foundation vehicle that was actually your BMW. Office space that was your beach house. The beach house is fraud, too. Daniel's voice broke. Everything is fraud, Dr. Walker. Your wife has stolen approximately $30 million through 7 different fake charities. Daniel was silent for a long moment, then asked the question I'd been dreading. Mum, why didn't you tell me when you found out? Would you have believed me? Your wife, the woman you loved, the philanthropist everyone admired, was actually a con artist. You would have thought I was trying to break up your marriage. Maybe. I don't know. 18 months of knowing my life was a lie, and you said nothing. I said plenty. I asked to visit the centers, to meet the children, to see the books. Every time you defended Caroline, said I was being paranoid or difficult. He remembered those conversations. I could see it in his eyes. The Sunday dinners where I'd questioned expenses, the family gatherings where I'd suggested more oversight. He'd always taken Caroline's side, accused me of not trusting his wife. She was so convincing, he whispered. Even now, part of me can't believe it's true. James Chen opened another box. Would you like to hear the recordings? Your mother wore a wire to board meetings where your wife explicitly discussed deceiving donors. Caroline's voice filled the room, cold and calculating. The beauty of charity fraud is that donors feel good about being scammed. They get their tax write-offs, their names on plaques, their photos at galas. They don't actually want to visit dirty orphanages or deal with real poverty. They want the fantasy of helping, and I give them that. Everyone wins. Everyone except the children who needed help, Daniel said, his voice hollow. The children were never real to her, I said. They were marketing tools, nothing more. Daniel stood abruptly. I need air. I followed him to the balcony, where the Boston skyline glittered below us. Inside, the gala continued in confused whispers and shocked speculation. $30 million, Daniel said. 30 million that could have actually helped people. It's worse than that. Caroline's fraud has damaged trust in legitimate charities. Donations across the city have already started dropping. Real children will suffer because of what she did. I'm going to be ruined. My reputation, my career. No, you're a victim too. The FBI is very clear that you had no knowledge or involvement. Your colleagues know who you are, a dedicated surgeon who saves lives. This doesn't change that. Doesn't it? I was married to a monster and never noticed. What kind of person does that make me? A person who loved and trusted. That's not a character flaw, Daniel. She never loved me, did she? I was just another mark. I wanted to lie, to soften the blow, but he deserved the truth. No, sweetheart. You were a means to an end, a respectable husband who gave her credibility and access to wealthy donors. He laughed bitterly. She studied me, didn't she? Figured out exactly what I wanted in a wife and became that person. Yes, she's been running this con since college. You weren't her first husband, just her most successful one. There were others, two that we know of. Both divorced her after financial irregularities, but she was smart enough not to push too hard. She learned from those mistakes. We stood in silence, watching the city lights. Then Daniel asked, "What happens now?" Now the FBI seizes all assets purchased with stolen funds. The house, the cars, the jewelry, everything. You'll need to find somewhere else to live. I can stay at the hospital. They have rooms for surgeons on call. You can stay with me, I offered. In the house where I grew up? That's not pathetic at all. It's temporary. And it's better than being alone while you process this. How long have you been working with the FBI? Officially? 6 months. Unofficially? I've been gathering evidence for 18 months. And in all that time, it never occurred to you that I had a right to know? Every day. But the FBI needed an airtight case. If I'd told you and you'd confronted Caroline, she would have destroyed evidence and disappeared. She has fake passports, offshore accounts, escape routes planned. You know all that? I know everything. Her real name isn't even Caroline. It's Catherine Walensky from Newark. She reinvented herself at 18 and has been running cons ever since. Daniel's phone rang. It was the hospital, but he didn't answer. I can't work tomorrow. How can I operate on children when I can't even see what's right in front of me? You save lives, Daniel. That's real. That matters. Don't let Caroline take that from you too. Mum, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Always. Did you ever like her? Even a little? I thought about it. I wanted to. For your sake, I tried very hard to like her. But there was always something off. The way she looked at people like they were bank accounts, the way she performed emotions rather than feeling them, the way she studied our family like we were a test she needed to pass. Why didn't I see it? Because you see the best in people. It's what makes you a great doctor and a good man. Caroline weaponized that goodness against you. We went back inside where the FBI was interviewing guests, many of whom were now realizing they'd been defrauded. The mayor was on the phone with his office, demanding a full investigation. Senator Hayes was calling for congressional hearings on charity fraud. Judge Morrison approached me. Helen, I owe you an apology. When you started asking questions last year, Caroline told me you were showing signs of dementia. I actually believed her. She was very convincing. She had several board members believing I was senile. How much did you donate before discovering the truth? About 500,000. You? 3 million over 5 years. My wife is going to kill me. No, she's going to kill Caroline. Get in line. By midnight, the FBI had interviewed everyone and seized all foundation records. Daniel and I sat in the empty ballroom, surrounded by the detritus of Caroline's last performance. The Save the Children banners now seemed like cruel jokes. She's facing 20 to 30 years, Patricia told us. More if we can prove the international charity fraud. International? Daniel asked weakly. She was expanding. Fake refugee organizations, disaster relief scams. Your mother stopped her before she could fully launch those. After Patricia left, Daniel turned to me. You saved a lot of people from being scammed. I was just protecting my family's reputation. And the real victims are the children who won't get help because people won't trust charities anymore. Maybe we can fix that. What do you mean? Start a real foundation, complete transparency, site visits, documented results. Show people that legitimate charities exist. Daniel, you don't have any money. The FBI is seizing everything. But you do. And you know other donors who've been burned. Maybe they'd contribute to something real. I smiled at my son, seeing the man I'd raised despite Caroline's influence. The Walker Foundation, the Helen Walker Foundation for Transparent Giving. Every donor gets real-time access to financial records. Every child helped is documented. Every dollar tracked. That's a beautiful idea. It's what Caroline pretended to do. We'll do it for real. 3 months later, Caroline was denied bail after attempting to flee using one of her fake passports. The trial was a sensation, with media calling her the charity chameleon and documenting her decade of deception. She was convicted on all counts. During sentencing, she showed no remorse, only anger at being caught. Wealthy people waste money on stupid things every day, she told the judge. At least I made them feel good about it. You stole from children, the judge replied. Not literally, but you stole the help that money could have provided. You perverted human kindness into a personal piggy bank. 30 years, no parole. Daniel divorced her immediately, the process simple since every asset was seized. He moved in with me temporarily, which turned into 6 months as he rebuilt his life and we built our foundation. The Helen Walker Foundation launched with $10 million in seed money, $5 million from me, $5 million from other defrauded donors who wanted to make things right. Complete transparency was our selling point. Donors could log in any time to see exactly where their money was, what it was buying, and who it was helping. Real children this time. Real communities. Real change. Daniel threw himself into the foundation when he wasn't at the hospital, using his medical knowledge to identify areas of greatest need. We partnered with his hospital to provide free surgeries for children whose families couldn't afford care. 1 year after Caroline's arrest, we held our first gala. Smaller than hers, less flashy, but every dollar raised went to help actual children. The photos on the walls were of real kids Daniel had operated on, children whose lives were saved because people cared enough to donate. "Mum," Daniel said during his speech, taught me that trust isn't weakness. Being fooled doesn't make you a fool. It makes you human. What matters is what you do after the deception is revealed. You can become cynical, or you can become stronger and smarter while keeping your heart open. The audience applauded, many of them Caroline's former victims who'd found healing in supporting our real work. Later that night, as we counted the donations, $1.8 million, every penny of which would reach children in need, Daniel asked me the question I'd been waiting for. "Do you think I'll ever trust anyone again? Romantically, I mean." "Yes, but you'll be wiser about it. You'll ask questions. You'll verify. You'll protect yourself while remaining open to love. Like you did after Dad died. My husband had passed 15 years ago, and I'd never remarried, though not for lack of opportunity. I chose to focus on you and on protecting what we'd built. But you're younger. You have time to find real love." Caroline really did a number on me. Caroline was a professional con artist. She'd done numbers on dozens of people. You just happened to be her biggest score. Lucky me. Actually, yes, lucky you. Because you survived her, exposed her, and turned her evil into something good. How many people can say that? 6 months later, Daniel met Rachel, a pediatric nurse who didn't know about Caroline until their 5th date. She Googled him, found the whole sordid story, and showed up to their 6th date with a simple question. "Are you okay?" Not "how much money did you lose?" or "how could you not know?" Just, "Are you okay?" They married 2 years later in a small ceremony in my backyard. No designer gowns, no gold centerpieces, no society photographers. Just family, real friends, and a donation to the foundation in lieu of gifts. Caroline, serving year 3 of her 30-year sentence, somehow heard about the wedding and sent a letter. Daniel burned it unopened. I don't need to know what she has to say, he told me. That part of my life is over. No, I corrected. That part of your life was fiction. This is your real life. The foundation has helped over 3,000 children so far. Each one documented, photographed with permission, their stories told honestly. We have a 98% efficiency rate. Only 2% goes to administration. And that's all transparent too. Sometimes donors tell me they were victims of Caroline's fraud, and they're grateful we turned something horrible into something beautiful. We didn't turn anything, I always correct them. We built something new from the ashes of her destruction. There's a difference. My name is Helen Walker. I'm 76 now, and I've learned that the most dangerous lies are the ones wrapped in good intentions. Caroline fooled hundreds of people by weaponizing their desire to help others. She turned charity into a con game. But she also taught us something valuable. Real charity doesn't need fancy galas or designer gowns. It doesn't need to be photographed or celebrated. It just needs to actually help people. The Morrison Foundation died with Caroline's arrest. The Helen Walker Foundation rose from its ashes. And every child we help is a small victory over the woman who pretended to care but only loved herself. Daniel sometimes asks if I regret not exposing Caroline sooner. I always give the same answer. I exposed her at exactly the right time, when I could destroy her completely. Because that's what you do with cancer. You don't just remove part of it. You make sure you get every last cell, or it comes back stronger. Caroline was a cancer on the charity world, and I made sure she could never metastasize again.